Okay, as promised, I have a very special show for you tonight. Hope you're going to enjoy it.
I was the lucky one.
Buttress O'Kneel.
She's been described as an unstoppable force. Buttress O'Kneel.
Pretty face, but uh-oh.
She's kind of an enigma.
Buttress O'Kneel.
She's just who she is. She's unique. She's a mystery.
Buttress O'Kneel.
Electronic.
Feminist.
Plunderphonics.
Art punk.
I couldn't have described it better.
Oh boy, does it go off.
Pretty intriguing.
Buttress O'Kneel. Kneel spells as Kneel.
Buttress, the word O-K-N-E-E-L.
The music speaks for itself, but liking her makes you feel a bit clever.
Buttress O'Kneel.
The woman behind the work.
Come on.
High impact wizards. So let's take a look.
I wonder whether we could start by just gathering a few impressions of this woman.
Buttress.
Who's Buttress?
Who is this person?
Unless you're a student of musical electronica or an acolyte of glitchy, electronic,
Feminist.
Maestra.
Art.
Buttress O'Kneel.
is virtually unknown.
It's really funny because not many people know what she looks like.
Did you see her face? Did you see her face?
I did not.
What? Even like in the studio,
She likes doing her thing.
She doesn't really tend to talk with the rest of the world or meet up with the outside world very much. I can't blame her.
Cultivating the mystery.
Quite an enigmatic character.
Considering she's celebrated as one of the greatest performers on the planet and is praised by critics and audiences alike, her decision to shy away from the cameras may seem baffling.
She's a super interesting artist.
She is very unusual.
She wanted to share her work, not her privacy.
Buttress O'Kneel is an infamous mashup artist
From Australia.
This woman is the most incredible artist.
And I knew from day one, I knew there was no way this girl's not going to make it.
And she was one of the only girls I knew around who was talking about feminism and punk rock kind of in the same sentence.
Juxtapose them.
Plunderphonics, or audio piracy as a
do-it-yourself way of perpetuating punk culture and sticking it to the establishment.
samples.
Utterly political. Unapologetically digital. And it's utterly female.
Well, it draws from punk rock. It's unabashedly female.
Electronic.
Feminist.
Plunderphonics.
Riot girl.
Art punk.
A very independent thinker.
Very intelligent, very analytical, as you had to be in those days. You really had to know what you're doing.
Very prolific.
But also very fiery and kind of a bit crazy.
An experimentalist.
It's just like, oh my god, what's this woman on?
A sonic adventurer.
Very versatile girl who has a good technical knowledge combined with a musical training and a sense of dramatic ability.
An electronic avant-gardist.
She was a pioneer, a genius, a powerhouse of musical creativity.
A composer, musician, critic, theorist.
She's an absolute artist. She sees art. That's just what she sees. I'm on a rampage now.
I mean, obviously it's not number one on the dance floor, but then all music shouldn't be.
Truck stopping and famine.
What?
And now the bill has come due.
Essential wisdom for hard times. My name is Michael Dowd, and I'm recording this with abrupt and irreversible, both coming from the very conservative Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change.
She's a sonic artist, programmer, who's known for making music from
samples.
With a degree of imaginative intuition and technical mastery, which deserves the highest admiration.
basically the art of nicking stuff and repurposing it.
And how would you describe her to somebody who didn't know her and didn't know her work?
Wow! Feminism and political issues.
Illegal remixes.
Weird edits.
Illegal samples of all sorts of stuff.
Well, it's the individual building blocks.
She shifts them into all shapes and sizes.
Year one.
Wow!
And it's a hell of a lot of fun.
It really doesn't have anything obviously musical about it.
For a more academic, intense route into the sampling of music and the notion of authorship.
It is obviously not played. It's obviously not played on real instruments.
The whiplashing effect of multiple genre mashups at kind of whiz-bang intensity.
Experimental, dreamy stuff that sort of came from lots of different places at once.
It's a top-to-bottom love for music, irrespective of genre.
I never heard anything like it.
Distortions to the point of surrealism.
And how good she was at like crystallizing a widely held feeling into a really irresistible, like artistic format.
With some danceable beats.
On the computer.
Because nobody had actually done anything quite like that before.
Extremely intricately produced long-form political diatribes.
It's obviously not performed on synthesizers because it has a sort of performance sound element to it which doesn't sound performed, if you see what I mean. Imperfections in it. It's got lots of imperfections in it. It is organic because it's cut from individual pieces.
She manipulates them so heavily that they actually become a part of her very digital compositions.
It is the voices, the editing is stunning.
It was kind of an empowering and surreal experience.
In profound ways. This idea of repurposing, repackaging, recreating.
She'd taken that and gone away and created an icon.
For me, it was very avant-garde and expressive and kind of from a complete different planet.
It's not meant to portray necessarily time travel or space or anything like that.
Abstract pieces.
We're learning that hunger itself can produce conflict.
When I first heard it, I almost had to bend my ears round to be able to understand the sounds that were coming at me.
And short, usually illegal remixes for
sonic reconfigurations. Transformed until they are just glitchy shells of their former selves.
This is an experiment. Each of those notes were hand cut.
She thought she was clever.
I just love doing the work that I do at this time, and it feels really deeply.
If you take sound and organise it in certain ways and along certain lines and bearing in mind certain parameters, what you produce, of course, is something which we tend to know generally as music.
Strange, eerie music, which I understand is not produced by ordinary musical instruments, but electronically.
Repetition legitimizes. Repetition legitimizes. Repetition
How is that done?
Is among the largest we've ever seen or it's ever been.
At which point?
You have exactly 35 minutes to get properly dressed up, Lisa.
That would be amazing.
I wouldn't have put it quite that, Lisa.
I think it's important that...
How is electronic music produced?
Buttress O'Kneel
used a computerized instrument. Any sound can be fed into it, stored, and played back on its keyboard.
She wanted electronic music to be handmade.
Often with music classed as plunderphonics, the person taking the samples is using only samples to create something entirely different. Tracks just made out of samples.
What was so exciting was that you could take any sound in
and then manipulate it.
She shifts them into all shapes and sizes.
And often those original samples sound absolutely nothing like what they originally did in that original piece of music.
This isn't a problem for the future. It's already happening.
See, if I pick up this mic for an example and press S for sample, we can put in the sound, I hope. Over here we have the waveform, and it should be up on the keyboard.
The impact of climate change.
Every kid can do that with their phone nowadays, but at the time, it was absolutely unique.
Kind of strange, unpredictable sound effects.
And suddenly opened up these whole sort of continents of new sound texture.
I love you.
Sonic art.
Where waves shatter seawalls.
You can turn practically any sound into a form of music.
Buttress
O'Kneel.
Doing special sound sequences.
Entirely without permission.
She's the best. Written in history books. The absolute best. Yet to be printed.
The only way to keep humanity safe is the immediate and sustained radical cuts to greenhouse gas emissions.
Buttress O'Kneel,
The woman who used samples of all sorts of stuff
to create
Such crazy music.
She made bizarre pop tracks.
She was definitely out there on her own.
No one had done anything like that before.
Buttress
O'Kneel.
Sculptress of sound.
Glitchy, non-musical.
That got a lot of criticism, but I loved it. It was overloaded with textures and tones and
Some very perplexing soundscapes, eye-widening experimentations, and a few odd dance pieces.
The music was not something you'd learn in a kind of rock school or a conservatoire of music academy. What I love about her music is that it's so innate. The talent she has is so innate but perfect, fully formed music.
Very strange, weird vocal effects.
And so it was like this very fine line between genius and insanity.
There are times where you feel like you are being punched in the face because the music is coming at you so quickly from different angles, and it's basically the musical equivalent of whiplash, okay?
Is the power of this music something to do with our sense that its elements are kind of hewn from
3,500 samples?
You listen to it and you cannot tell by listening to it how it was done.
Buttress O'Kneel.
Love the process of finding new sounds from strange, wayward places and trying to put them into different types of music.
The voices, the editing is stunning.
I love you.
So the political marketplace framework began as an ethnographic observation, really.
The Riot Girl.
Buttress
O'Kneel.
Absence from the limelight encourages audiences to face the art first, rather than the artist who makes it.
Where pipelines burst.
So let's try and find out a little bit more about the woman who created these sounds.
Buttress O'Kneel.
To liquid fire.
Legendary sort of cut and paste breakcore artist by the name of Buttress O'Kneel.
One of the things that I love about
Buttress O'Kneel
is her absolute ability to take things
from most record shops,
to pluck things that you would never expect and put them there and make them work.
Because it is undeniably technically impressive.
Buttress O'Kneel
wanted to revive and rejuvenate punk rock's DIY culture
with samples,
and when you mix those two together, you get the.
I love you, where our only reservoir evaporates into layers of salt.
is enough. It was so outside the realm of how a young woman is supposed to act.
The studio was no place for a woman.
We don't need a script.
It's like, oh, music is supposed to be escapist. And it wasn't. It was grounding it. It was making like music a voice for a lot of people that hadn't been heard before. We were shocked.
Constructed from samples.
We have knowledge. We know it makes social and economic sense.
One of the hottest producers around.
Part of the musical counterculture.
Essentially smashes through any generic conventions, barriers.
You know, you've got something which is innovative and experimental, very progressive in many ways. But also is going into people's front rooms, you know, on a weekly basis.
It makes you start to think about, oh, I've heard this piece before.
So there's something like that combination of the extraordinary and the ordinary, you know, the mundane, and in a way, but also very odd.
So political budget, political market.
Surely you understand.
Now, the link to the carbon economy is very important.
So let's try and build up a picture of this woman.
We couldn't believe.
Amazing lady.
Just her as a person, like her energy is just like, let's get to work. Are you real? Like, is that really how you are? And it is. We need to get ready. And she's so magical.
Yeah, she's been performing and doing her bizarre thing since the late 90s. Everything from sort of, really hilarious kind of usage of sampling.
Oh my God.
To just, outright weird and cut and paste and glitchy stuff. It's amazing.
Decarbonisation and conflict, which we begin to see in different forms elsewhere.
When you recognize...
I think this is a prime example of plunderphonics.
But watching her work and create music is just, she's so pure, she's so we have arrived. Sure of herself.
There was this great admiration for what she was doing.
It really worked.
This was the origin of Deming's principle. The next process is the customer.
Buttress O'Kneel was a rebel. She was spiky. She was uncompromising. She was a utopia who believed that creative freedom was more important than getting work.
You would never guess that she's a celebrity if you didn't actually know.
Perhaps her answer to the constant hum of celebrity life may be to just disappear, only to emerge on her own terms.
Let us all go together.
Speaking through her music.
It's now going bye-bye.
That idealism didn't always make life easy for her.
Seminal.
Electronic.
Feminist.
Plunderphonic.
Mashup.
Riot girl.
Art punk.
But does she remain an enigma to you?
At that time,
yes.
Socially just way.
What?
But her legacy is still very much alive.
Can go through planned, non-traumatic decarbonisation. They have the money.
And it's fantastic and it's unique. And it still stands up.
Supremely enjoyable plunderphonics from a master curator.
They will answer you with screams. Carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide.
Emma?
There, I think she might have liked that.
Time is almost up.
Let us all go together.